In this demonstration, we're going to build onto our DLL application and make it more useful to the user. So far, we built an application with a car class that has properties available to the user, and then a truck class that inherits car and then increases the number of properties, as well as uses polymorphism to work with vehicle information. We then had an application with simply buttons to test these items. So what we want to do now is create an interface where the user can add and view cars and trucks that are available. So to do this, I'm just going to make my form a little wider, and I'll leave my test cases in there, even though they're really just for our use. But I'll create a label that'll list out or mention available cars. Put a list box underneath it, and that'll allow us just to list them out. So list cars. And I'll do the same thing for trucks. So instead of available cars, it'll be available trucks. And we'll call it list trucks. We'll create a group box, and that'll display the information about the vehicle. So I'll call it group vehicle, GRP vehicle. Whoops. And I'll give them the text of vehicle information. Within here, I'm going to have some labels and some controls. So here I need vehicle name. And that's going to be a text box. And it'll have no text in it by default. Next, I'll have a label for passenger count. And for that, I'm going to use a numeric up-down control. I'll do the same thing for miles. And then the bed length is going to be the same thing. So for a truck, we have the bed length to work with. I'll give each control a name now. Now the descriptive labels, they don't mean anything to me except for the one referring to bed length. And we'll get to that in a minute. So for the first one, it's going to be txt vehicle name. Next one, NUM passenger count. NUM miles. LBL bed length for the label. And NUM bed length for the numeric up down. The reason why I named this label is because if we're referring to a car, we don't need bed length to be visible at all. It'd actually be very inappropriate. So we need to have a way just to simply hide that in our code. So here I've got a button. We'll do two of them. So btn cancel, btn update. We'll change text properties to match. And then we need a new car and new truck button. So we'll put those here towards the top. So do BTN new truck and BTN new car. There we go. All right, I'm going to put some parameters here, or properties. So vehicle name, for example, for that, I want a max length of 25. Can't have a vehicle name more than 25 characters in our program. Passenger count. Well, we need a minimum of 1 passenger. I'm going to do a maximum of 10 passengers. For miles, we'll allow a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 999,999. And for bed length, we'll allow 0 and we'll go up to 12. We'll save. By default, I want my group box disabled. So I only want it enabled when they're adding a new vehicle or modifying an existing, viewing or modifying. When they click cancel, I want to clear out these controls and disable the group box. I'm going to do that under its own method. So first, I'm just going to click cancel. And then below that, I'm going to create a new private void. And I'll just call it clear group box. And within there, we'll clear the controls. So vehicle name dot clear, NUM passenger count, dot value equals 1 because we didn't allow it to be 0. NUM miles dot value equals 0. NUM bed length dot value equals 0. We'll make bed length invisible. So LBL bed length dot visible equals false. And NUM bed length dot visible equals false. And then we'll disable the group box. GRP vehicle dot enabled equals false. So now under button cancel, we'll just call group or clear group box. Next, we need the ability to add a new car or truck. So we can do that. So when they click new, we want to be able to have the group box enabled. And then we also need to have something indicating to us that they're working with a new car. So I'll double click new car. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide bed length. And I know that seems a little redundant from what we did under our clear process, but if the user had clicked on a truck, which was visible, and then we clicked new car, we would need this to be handled. And actually what I can do, really just simply, is I could just call clear group box. I've already done everything I needed to do to clear everything out. I'll enable the group box. I'll set focus, just to be kind to my user. And I'm going to set my tag to new car. And this is just simply a hidden text field or a string associated with the group box or any control. So I'm going to say group vehicle dot tag equals NC. So now when I go to save, I know it was a new car. If I save it and run it, I can see what happens here. Click new car, gave me what I wanted. Click cancel, cleared it out, new car, cancel, new car, new car. Perfect. Now we need that update button to work. Now what we need to happen is when they click update, we need to add that car to a list. So at form level, I'm going to create a list of cars and a list of trucks. So here I'm going to say list. I'm going to refer to our class object, or I'm sorry, our DLL, which was vehicle. And in there we had car. And I'm going to call it my cars. And it's going to refer to a new list of cars. And do the same exact thing for truck. Oops. So I've got somewhere to store these. Save that. Go to my update button. And under update, I need to validate that they typed in a vehicle name. Now I know through our parameters here, through our properties, that these other values will be good. There'll be something in them. So if txt vehicle name dot text equals nothing, then we're going to throw an error at the user. So there we go. Next, we need to know, were they referring to a car or to a truck? Whoops. Yikes. Getting a little happy with the typing here. So otherwise, we know it checked out, and now we need to know check if car or truck. So if, and what we know is that if it was a car, the truck numeric or the bed length numeric up down would not be visible. So if bed length dot enabled equals false, we know it was a car. I'm sorry, it wasn't enabled. It should be dot visible, but boy, that makes me want to check now, doesn't it? Visible. Cool, we did the right thing. All right, so now we know it's a car. So I'm going to create an instance of my class. So I'm going to say class vehicle.classCar. I'll call it my temp car equals new vehicle.classCar. Now I can pass the values right to it, which I'll wait till we do a truck to do that. I'll show this to you one step at a time. But we'll update properties. So my temp car dot vehicle name equals text vehicle name dot text. My temp car dot miles equals num miles dot value, which we should get an underline here soon. Oh, maybe not. There we go. We'll talk about that in a minute. Passenger count equals num miles. Whoops. Num passenger count dot value. Now the reason why we have these underlines, so we'll put our mouse over it, and the issue is that we have a long for miles, yet The numeric up down, no matter what, stores a decimal. So we have to convert it. So I can say long.parse. The value within the numeric up down, I have to convert it to a string to work with C#, but so be it. And I can do the same thing with the passenger count being an integer. There we go. Took care of those. Now I need to check if it's a new car. I simply add this to my list. So if group vehicle dot tag toString equals new car, then we just add our temp car to the list. So my cars dot add my temp car. And done. It works great. Our code has no errors. We can save it. We can run it. We can click new car. We can say Ford Pinto takes 4 passengers, has 1,000 miles on it. Car's just like new. Click update. And boy, we see nothing happen. Couple things going on here. Number one, after they click update and it saves, we should clear out that group box. So what do we call this thing? Clear group box. So to do that, run it. Try this again. Ford Pinto, 4 passengers, 100 miles this time. Hit save. Well, it cleared out my group box, but didn't display the car. And the reason why is, of course, because, well, we never told it to. So next, I'm going to go through and I'm going to create a new void. So private void, display vehicles. And what this is going to do is it is going to clear list box. So list cars dot items dot clear. Loop through cars and add to list box. So for int I equals 0, 2, I is less than my cars dot count, and we'll keep adding 1 to I. So what we did there is we said go from 0 to the count of cars and keep adding I. Now we can refer to each item, so list cars dot items dot add my cars position I dot vehicle name. We will do the identical thing for trucks. So I'm going to copy, paste, and just change a word from cars to trucks. And I know we don't have any yet, but we're prepared. So now after we clear out that group box, whoops, we'll actually get to see something work. New car, Ford Pinto, seats 4, 1,000 miles. There's our car. Add another car, Ford F-150. Ooh, that should have been a truck. So we'll go with a different car here. We'll do, Ford Fiesta. And that had 90 miles on it. That's as far as it made it. We'll click update, and we can see that it's adding in these cars. We'll do the same exact thing for truck. So I'll go to my new truck button. And I need to go back to my new car because, wow, I'm looking at really the same stuff here. So I'm going to copy what was under new car, paste it under new truck, and take a look at what I have here. Clear the group box, perfect. Enable the group box, sure. Set focus, set the tag to, instead of new car, it's going to be new truck. However, the truck needed to have the bed length added back in. So here, so LBL bed length dot visible equals true. NUM bed length dot visible equals true. And there we go. We've got our new truck ready to go. So now we click start. New truck makes it all there. New car makes it disappear. So we can see that we're toggling between the two being on or off. Next, we need to make this update button update for a truck. So we had if bed length visible equals false. Well, the other situation is going to be well, we know it was a truck if it wasn't a car. So here, we're going to say vehicle.class truck. We'll call it my temp truck. Could have been called anything though. Equals vehicle.class truck. Uh-oh. It's giving us an underline. And it's saying no argument given. So what it's requiring is a string, a long, an integer, and an integer. And that's because we didn't give the option of creating just truck. We made it, so you have to pass these values. So it needs vehicle name, miles, passengers, and bed length. Well, we can do that. We know the vehicle name, txt vehicle name.text. Our next issue is going to be that those miles, we got to parse them out. So we have to say long.parse num miles.value. Got click happy. To string. Comma. Next. Whoops. Comma. Passengers. So int.parse num passenger count dot value dot toString. And then finally bed length. So int.parse num bed length dot value toString. So we've created our truck, and that's all we have to do because we don't have to update properties. We did this right in the initialization. Here, we'll check for new truck. So here, if grp vehicle.tag.toString equals nt, then my trucks dot add my temp truck. Perfect. Save it, run it. New car, Ford Festiva, could hold 5 passengers, 99,000 miles on it. New truck, Ford F-150, 3 passengers, 56,000 miles, 8-foot bed, update. And we can see that it created the correct vehicle. Now we want it, so we double click on a vehicle, they appear in vehicle information. Because we can do a lot more than just add vehicles. So I'm going to double click on my list box, and it took me to selected index changed, which is not at all what I'm really wanting here. Oops. So I'm going to change this from selected index change to double click. And watch what this does. When I run it, it gets upset at me because it goes, hey, selected index change doesn't exist. So I'll go into my code, which is the designer code, and it's not going to be selected index changed. So we double click, and it's going to refer to the event called list cars. Double click. Go back to my form. And when this happens, I need to validate a vehicle was selected. Or, I guess what we also could do would be to do some exception handling here. So I guess we could do that instead. But the first method was to check to see if a vehicle was selected by making sure that the selected index was greater than -1. Yeah, we'll stick with that. So if listcars.selectedIndex is greater than -1, we'll do something wonderful. If not, then we'll just do nothing. We'll let them double click till the cows come home. So here, we can find out the selected index. So I'm going to say int I equals listcars.selectedIndex. And now I'm just going to refer to these values in the group box. So I'll say txt vehicle name dot text equals my cars position I dot vehicle name num miles dot value equals my cars position I dot miles num passenger count dot value equals my cars sub I dot passenger count. And then we know that we don't care about the bed length here, so we'll assign properties controls, and we're going to hide bed length just in case it was visible. So we'll set the tag on the group box. So group vehicle dot tag equals EC for existing car. But we also need to know which vehicle was selected. So for that, I'm just going to set the tag on the update button. So if it was existing car, then we'll say btn update.tag equals I. We'll enable our group box. And we'll set focus to name. Save it. Run it. We'll add in a great car. Chevrolet Aveo, 4 passengers, 10,000 miles. Double click on it, and there it is. We can add another new car. So I'll click New. This will be a Chrysler K car, 5 passengers, 900,000 miles. Now if I double click on them, I can see that they change. I'm going to change that Aveo to 5 passengers. Click Update. Double click on Aveo, and it did not update. And that's because we just haven't done our update control or command yet. We need to do the same thing, though, for truck. And we can do that. So let's get truck working before we go any further. So here I'm going to go to Design. I'm going to go to List Trucks. And I know I don't want selected index changed. So I'll scroll down. List trucks, selected index changed. Well, I don't want that on there. I want it double click. And I'm going to refer to double click, even though nothing of that nature exists yet. So I'll go to my vehicle, change it to double click. Now I am looking at virtually the same code once again. So by all means, I do not want to type it all again. So I will go and copy it. So if instead of list cars, it's going to be list trucks, selected index. Instead of doing I'll show this to you in another way. I'll say list trucks dot selected index. So there's our name, miles, passenger count. We need to deal with the bed length this time. Ooh, but I need to refer to my trucks. Yikes, I made a mistake. So instead of my cars, my trucks. I'm going to show bed length. And it's going to be an existing truck instead of an existing car. Instead of it's going to be list trucks dot selected index to string. And there we go. We've written our code. So fast, so simple. New truck, F-150, 3 passengers, 900 miles on it, and it has an 8-foot bed. Click Update, New truck, Chevrolet Silverado, 2 passengers, 100,000 miles on it, 6-foot bed. Update, New car, Dodge Dart, 4 passengers, 15 miles on it. And then I can double click on these vehicles and I can see things work accordingly. So it's time to get those update buttons working. So let's go back to our update button. We've dealt with before. If it was a car, we've dealt with if it was a new car. So now we need to just update for we'll check for an existing car. So if grp vehicle.tag.toString equals existing car, Whoops. There we go. My cars. And then we tell it the position, which would be int.parse of btn update dot tag dot toString. And what we did here is we said, let's refer to cars, the position that we identified, and we hit it under button update. So it's position 1, 2, 0, 9, whatever it might be. And we said, put my temp car in there. We'll do the same exact thing for an existing truck. So for existing truck, and instead of my temp car, it's going to be my temp truck. And instead of adding to my cars, we're going to be referring to my trucks. And that's it. That's all we have to do. So you can see once you do the background work for a DLL and a class and different methods, it's very quick and easy to use them in your code. This is very effective when you're getting into bigger applications. So we can run it, new car, a Kia, I don't know what the names are, 4 passengers, has 80 miles on it, new car, Plymouth Horizon, 4 passengers, 130,000 miles on it. And if you have not seen a Plymouth Horizon, you can Google that fine automobile. And now we can update. So instead of 130,000, it's got 135,000 miles. We'll click update, and we can see it updated. Now, something I don't like about this environment. So if I click on some truck and I click on some car, they're both highlighted. So what I think I want to do here is when you double click on a car or a truck, it makes the other unclicked. So for that, I'll double click on my car, maybe. So list cars, double click. And I'll just unselect trucks. So I'm just going to say list trucks dot selected index equals -1. And that means it's going to unselect any trucks. I'll do the same thing when they click on a truck. New car, new truck, double click on a truck, double click on a car, and you can see as soon as we do that, it makes the other unselected. So that handles those items. The only additional thing that we might want to add here would be to remove a car or remove a truck. So let's do that real quick just to show you how it's done. Oops. View toolbox. btn remove car. Whoops. So I'll double click and we'll validate a car was selected. If list cars dot selected index is greater than a -1, so remove the car from the list. So my cars dot remove, not remove all, oh my gosh. Remove at, and we'll give it a position of list cars dot selected index. We'll remove it from the list box, so list cars dot items dot remove at list cars dot selected index. We'll deal with our group box, just in case they had something visible in there. And that's it, it'll remove the car. We'll do the same exact thing under delete truck. So list trucks, my trucks, and all we're doing is changing our references from cars to trucks. Run it. We'll get a great new car of a Ford Pinto, 3 passengers because somebody removed the back seat. We'll add another car. Chrysler K car, 5 passengers. We can grab that Pinto or that K car, and then we can decide, hey, I don't want the Pinto anymore, delete, and it wiped it right out of there. We could still do our updates, and everything works just fine. We'll add a truck just to test, and it removed that out as well. And that concludes working with these items in our DLL.